Hi, this is Luke Steele from Celluloid Rage. Imagine you've just gone into a seedy movie theater by yourself. There's almost no one there, but when you look up to the front, you notice someone staring at you right as the lights go down. (1973's) Messiah of Evil is an anomaly of sorts, and in my opinion is an underrated horror classic. And I'm not alone. In 2019, IndieWire named Messiah of Evil as one of the 100 best horror movies of all time. And according to Gloria Katz, the co-writer and co-director, the prolific British film critic Robin Wood stated Messiah of Evil was one of the best horror films of the 70s. So why is this somewhat obscure movie considered to be a masterpiece?
What about my father?
You have to kill him.
Husband and wife team Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz both grew up in LA during the late 1940s and 50s. In the early 60s, Huyck enrolled at USC ostensibly as a journalism major, but later switched over to film where he met Curtis Hanson, John Milius, and George Lucas. Similarly, Gloria Katz enrolled at UCLA as a history major and would also later switch over to film. Both Katz and Huyck shared a love of Roger Corman and met in 1966 at UCLA, where Corman was showing a first cut of The Wild Angels. Katz and Huyck would go on to start a relationship and would later get married in 1969. After his junior year of college, Huyck got a job at American International Pictures as a reader for the producer Larry Gordon, and would later drop out of USC to pursue a career as a screenwriter. During his time at AIP, Huyck began to get his first professional work doing uncredited rewrites for the Vincent Price film The Witchfinder General in 1968, and would co-write 1969's The Devil's Eight with John Milius. In 1971, George Lucas had just released THX 1138 and wanted to have his sophomore feature be a tribute to cruising. Lucas hired Huyck and Katz to write the 15-page treatment to what would later become American Graffiti. However, soon after the treatment was finished, Lucas left for Cannes Film Festival in France where THX was screening. While he was away, Huyck and Katz's agent had transitioned to producing and promised to raise $100,000 for Huyck and Katz's first picture, with him also attached to direct. A group of independent Texas investors decided to chip in the money as long as the film was a commercial genre movie, i.e. a horror movie.
Do you like Wagner?
Oh yeah, sure. Super.
Huyck and Katz wrote the screenplay for Messiah of Evil over the course of 6 weeks, inspired by their shared love of H.P. Lovecraft. Originally written under the title of Blood Virgin, Huyck and Katz would change the title to The Second Coming, which is the title it would later shoot under. Filming of Messiah of Evil took place in Echo Park and other cheap areas in Los Angeles. A huge portion of the film's atmosphere comes from the stunning murals done by Gloria Katz's friend Joan Mosine, who would also inspire this scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Also in the art department was Jack Fisk, who would also partner with Mosine in Terrence Malick's Badlands, and would later have a very successful career as a production designer for many of Paul Thomas Anderson's films. Huyck and Katz also had a lot of difficulty funding the film, stating that the only people in the production who were paid in full were two cops who directed traffic during the shoot, who arrested the actor Michael Greer and wouldn't release him until they received compensation. The lack of funding would cause even more problems for Huyck and Katz into post-production.
What happened there? What they did to me? What they're doing now? They're coming here.
Messiah of Evil starts off with this guy running away from some unknown assailant. He takes refuge in a woman's backyard where he is later killed by that same woman. Fun fact, that guy was Walter Hill, who would later direct The Driver, The Warriors, and 48 Hours. Also, this scene has absolutely nothing to do with the actual plot. No, this movie is really about Arletty, who travels to a town called Point Dune to visit her estranged father, who's an artist. Arletty goes to her dad's house only to find him missing. The next day she goes into town to an art collector who tells her to try looking at the local motel. There, Arletty meets Tom and his two traveling companions, Laura and Tony, recording an interview with the town drunk, Charlie, played by the prolific character actor Elijah Cook Jr. Charlie tells them about the local legend of the Blood Moon, And outside of the motel, Arletty is confronted by Charlie, who tells her to burn her father, not bury him. Later, Arletty finds Tom, Laura, and Tony settling into her dad's house. Tom tells Arletty that they were kicked out of the motel because Charlie was found murdered shortly after the interview. The four of them live in the house for a while, and Tom tries to begin a sexual relationship with Arletty. Laura gets jealous and leaves the house, where she's murdered by a gaggle of ghouls in a supermarket. Soon after, Tony leaves and decides to go to the movies, where she meets the same fate. Arletty finds out that her dad had been crushed to death by his latest sculpture and realizes that she's beginning to show signs of the mysterious sickness that's afflicting the citizens of Point Dune. Tom goes into town to find out what's going on and sees a couple of cops get attacked by the sick townspeople. Arletty's dad comes back to life and tells her that 100 years ago, a mysterious stranger put a curse on the town, saying that he would return to convert the entire world into serving his dark master. Arletty's dad succumbs to the sickness and Arletty burns him to death. Tom returns to save Arletty just as the townspeople invade the house. Tom and Arletty escape into the ocean, where Tom drowns. Arletty finds a boat but is brought back to shore to become a part of the mysterious stranger's dark ritual. Arletty is allowed to live but is forced into a mental asylum, where she tries to warn people of the coming apocalypse. Huyck and Katz worked with friend and fellow USC graduate Morgan Fisher. The film was shot in Techniscope, a patented process of Technicolor, meaning Messiah of Evil would have to be edited in the Technicolor lab in Hollywood. However, the remaining budget of the film ran out soon in the editing process, and the team fell behind on paying the lab bill. Afraid that the film would be seized, Huyck stole the film elements and set up shop in his parents' house, later moving the editing bay to an empty warehouse his father owned. Another investor from Texas stepped in to fund the rest of the process. However, the check bounced and the original investors sued the executive producers, and all the film materials were shipped off to be finished by International Cinefilm without Huyck and Katz's involvement. Although there were a few Lovecraft adaptations already released by this time, I'd argue Messiah of Evil is the first that captures the truly inescapable dread that Lovecraft was known for. The themes of madness, found journal entries of Arletty's father, and the cosmic subplot of the mysterious stranger in the Blood Moon absolutely reek of Lovecraftian influence. Although Messiah of Evil is generally described as a zombie movie, the townspeople of Point Dune are a lot different than Romero's zombies. Overall, they seem to be coherent. Both the albino and Arletty's father are able to speak, and they can also strategize, such as the scene where they sneak up on Tony and lock her in the theater. Furthermore, these zombies cannot be killed by bullets and headshots, meaning they're a lot more similar to the zombies of Return of the Living Dead. But the Romero comparisons don't end there. Stephen Thrower, in his book Nightmare USA, argues that Messiah of Evil shares the same themes of American consumerism that was at the forefront of Dawn of the Dead. These are not your typical zombies. Their behavior is governed by Huyck and Katz's desire to populate a particularly nightmarish vision of sterile Californian consumerism with symbols of soulless humanity. He even goes on to say that this scene in the supermarket is both a pure nightmare image and a symbol of slavery to consumption as effective as any dawn. An interesting addition to the cast was Michael Greer, who plays Tom. Greer, at this time, was an out gay actor and was well known at the time for starring in gaysploitation films such as Fortune in Men's Eyes and The Gay Deceivers. Therefore, there's been some attention given to whether or not Tom's relationship with the three women in the movie was sexual. If so, this would mean Greer would be the first gay protagonist in a horror film. I think the one thing that Messiah of Evil excels at is its atmosphere. When you watch this movie, it feels like you're watching a literal nightmare. There are a lot of aspects in this movie that are glossed over and underexplained. Although this could be a detractor of the movie, I'd argue that these aspects help the movie achieve a dreamlike logic. A great example is this scene near the beginning when Arletty stops for gas outside of town. Everything seems to be normal until a red truck pulls in. The garage worker immediately changes his attitude and goes to fill up the truck, only to find this in the bed. Instead of calling the police, the garage worker tells Arletty to leave and continues on with his job. The discovery of the dead bodies and the character's reaction, alongside the casting of Benny Robinson, who is such an otherworldly presence in this film, gives this scene an eerie quality that feels like something ripped straight out of a dream. After International Cinefilm whisked away the film stock, Huyck and Katz re-teamed with George Lucas to finish the screenplay for American Graffiti, which was released in 1973, the same year that Messiah of Evil was released. Reviews for the film were initially poor, being called a pretentious horror cheapie by Variety at the time. Huyck and Katz, however, would continue working with George Lucas, doing uncredited rewrites for Star Wars, which included reworking Princess Leia's character and injecting more humor. and they would later write Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and direct Howard the Duck, where their careers pretty much ended save for writing the screenplay for Radio Lane Murders in 1994. However, Messiah of Evil has seen a revival, particularly due to its atmosphere. Although the film doesn't use dream logic in the same sense that, say, David Lynch uses it, I think a great companion piece would be David Robert Mitchell's It Follows. Much like Messiah of Evil, It Follows does have a coherent overarching plot, and I think the atmosphere of both films are very similar. Although it's unclear whether or not David Robert Mitchell took direct inspiration from Messiah of Evil, It Follows does have a scene that reminds you of going to a seedy movie theater where something just isn't quite right.
What about the girl in the yellow dress?
Where?
Right there.